You might say you got faith in God, but when the test comes, who do you run to? Are you running to God or are you running to the world?
Yeah, faith must be tested and tried before it becomes real in your life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Today for Tomorrow podcast. We have a special episode for you today. This is one that you do not want to miss. Stay to the entire time. Send it to your dad, send it to your uncle, send it to your son, your nephew, your cousin. This is one of those episodes, all right? Mike, you want to bring us in?
Yeah. So the other day, I was doing my morning readings and studying, and I came across a inspirational reading that it convicted me so much that I'm like, man, I want to send this to my brothers, man. So I took a picture of it and I sent it to the fellas. I sent it to a few other people, actually. Some of y'all might have got it. And the premise was just faith. And it was just talking about how, I'll actually read a little sentence from it. It says, "Yet faith must be tested and tried before it becomes real in your life." And for me, I've been in a season for at least 10 years. Now, I would say my whole entire life, but really the last 10 years has been an extreme faith walk. And, right now, just where I'm at, I'm literally taking steps, not seeing anything, but as soon as I put that foot down, it's just somehow it's landing. And I know, based on my spirituality and my connection with God, it's God doing it. But it's me having the faith with my free will, my free mind, because you don't have to take those steps. Yeah. And it's been moments where, if I'm being totally honest, it's a little fear of the unknown. And I'm hesitant to take that step. But I can't say how, so many times I just do it anyways, and it's been working out, man. And so me, I feel like, I'm getting close to God. I feel like God's being, he's happy because he's like, yeah. Now, it's like watching a kid taking their first, come on, keep going. And the more they go, the more, hype you get, oh yeah, you doing it, And so that's the type of mode that I'm in right now. So we figured that, let's bring it to the table. These things that we're talking about behind closed doors, but we don't want to gatekeep the information. We want to get it out to you as soon as we can. And so now we're here. We're having a real life conversation. But I do want to ask this question. I know how I felt when I read this and when I was, the mode I was in, but what were you guys thinking when I sent that to you?
Could you read it one more time?
So I'll read that sentence where it says, "Yet faith must be tested and tried before it becomes real in your life."
Yeah. Now, I think that's actually been a theme for me, and I think that's one thing that most people don't want to accept in this. And the reason I say that is because, we've had a conversation before, I think on one of the recaps, where it's you ask God for a new opportunity, you ask God for a raise, you ask God for X, Y, and Z, and then he presented you a problem, right? Mm-hmm. And then you cried about it, but the reality is your blessing was in that, because that was the testing part.
Yep.
And it's like that is the process that we must go through. And so, man, when I read that, I'm like, that's right on time. That's right on point. There's so many things right now in the world that it's you can't trust in too many systems anymore. You really can't.
Yeah.
There's a certain point that you have to live by faith. You're almost being forced to at this point, because you're going to have faith in something. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, the most solid ground is God every time.
No, it is. And just, when you shared that and I read it, and it's like you said, that's one line, but you read the whole thing. But man, that line is so powerful to me. That faith must be tested before it really becomes real to you. And that's true, because, you say you have faith and stuff and you can say it all day long. You can talking all day long, but until that test comes,
Mm-hmm.
until you really get tested, you find out what you got faith in.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you might say you got faith in God, but when the test comes, who do you run to? Are you running to, I thought about, who do you run to? Are you running to God or are you running to the world to fix it? You know what I'm saying?
No, that's so spot on. And it's funny because, so right now, my son's Cave of Adullam training, they've been discussing like the James 1:2 verse, where we're talking about, you know, finding joy when we face that adversity because we're going to allow perseverance to do its work. This really is the prize. And this is the part where, you know, we say it many different ways. I always like to say the process, you know, but basically what I'm saying is don't think that it's going to ever be this far off treasure that we're going to catch. Like we were tricked as kids by, you know, watching cartoons and you see they go on this treasure hunt and they find this just pile of treasure and everything is all good. And it's like, it never works out like that because it's an old African proverb when they say, soon as you reach the top of one mountain, you look to your left or your right, and then there's higher mountains, you know, and it's always going to be something more. Like no matter how many earthly goals you accomplish or beat, it's never going to be fulfilling. It's only one way to salvation, and we know that. And so to me, but going back to what you're saying, your faith only gets truly tested when you are really in a situation and you truly don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's literally by definition what faith is. It can't be something that, I knew we were going, you know, that's not true faith. No. And unfortunately, a lot of, you know, I don't want to say so-called Christians, but a lot of people, they will be saying, you know, have faith on one end, but as soon as they go through a problem, oh man, you know, this ain't, I can't believe it. It's like, well, hold on, sister. Ethel, I thought we was, sister Ethel, you know, the old school. And I'm like, well, what's going on? You know, because as a kid, these is real. I used to think about this all the time. I'm like, you just told me to relax. It's all going to be all good. God got it worked out. I believed you, but now I'm watching you retreat because it's you, and now I'm confused.
Sister Ethel been going to church for the last 30 years, too.
So why is Sister Ethel not going to God when trouble come up and going over here and like, you know,
exactly.
You know, thinking, man, I think, man, I love this topic for, you know, when you bring it up, James, I love that verse. They all tie together. But, and then Martell had said something too, how people will, I forget how you put it, but
Pray for a blessing.
Pray for a blessing. And then God bring a problem. But in reality, God don't bring a problem. He brings a test. You know what I'm saying? So that problem, if we take that word problem out and replace it with test or trial, going back to James, it's all to help build us.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
A riddle.
A riddle.
Okay.
This is new for you, but go ahead.
This is a riddle, okay? I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. Who am I?
I formed the light and made darkness. I created peace and made evil.
I make peace and create evil. I form the light and I create darkness.
Well, God did all. I mean, he created light.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Isaiah 45:7, it says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. This stood out to me the other day.
And give that scripture, chapter and verse again so people know where you got it from again.
Yeah.
Isaiah 45:7. Isaiah 45:7. Because I was ruminating.
Yes, sir.
On this one.
Inside joke, y'all. Inside joke. Go ahead.
On this verse, because I was just, it said, because the big mic drop was, I, the Lord, do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people, you're like, oh, God creating evil. Absolutely not. Never. Not my God. My God doesn't create evil. My God created everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But when you break it down, and it's deep, I highly recommend you spend some time. Just just read that, break every word down, okay? And your mind is going to be blown. But laser focusing on that word evil, okay? Now, evil, inside of the definition of it, it has affliction. And now there's 12 purposes of affliction that's in my Bible, okay? To work good in one, to hide pride from man, demonstrates God faithfulness, to test sincerity, to refine, purify, and increase fruitfulness, to increase power and grace, to bring back to God, to humble and correct, to make examples, to manifest love, to give reward, to learn obedience and truth. I form the light and create darkness. Right now, in front of us, we have this big old light dome, okay? And the room is, there's some other lights on behind it. But what happens is, because I have this dome over top of this light, it shapes the light to be pointing right here. So it's focused on us. This is where the highest concentration in this light. If I took that dome off, it would be all over the place. Now, God forming the light automatically creates dark areas. Because otherwise, if he did not form it, it would all just be light. The crazy thing about it is it relates directly to the next part, because it's like he makes peace, it's bestowed, it's achieved. So he's making peace. If there's peace, then what's the alternative? It's got to be something. Right?
Got to be war.
And so, but the thing is, with this evil, with this affliction, it's not, hey, I'm making evil so that you can suffer from it. It's to test you.
Yeah.
It's to humble you. It's to purify you. To build you up.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we go down, like, we got a little Bible study going on, y'all. 1 Corinthians 10:13, there hath no temptation taken you but such as common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tested above what you are able, but with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Some of y'all are running away from what God has for you. He gave you a way out and you took it. But that blessing that you've been praying for, it ain't coming. And here's why. Because you keep taking the escape route. The testing was the blessing.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, that's real, man. And it's funny because I think we talked about it here. I know I say it all the time. Like I've literally watched people that I love try to take shortcuts for a lifetime. And every time it sets you back, because while you're trying to, expedite whatever you feel like you need to get right now, your lesson is always going to keep repeating itself. One thing that I don't want to pick on the ladies, but it's like with,
This Mike talking, y'all. Not us.
No, but it's like with certain, I have 3 sisters, so but it's like, why you keep choosing this type of man? Or, at what point are we going to change the reference point up? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying my sisters in particular, but I mean, it can happen with men. It's like, why you keep, making this a mistake on your job? Or why do you keep jeopardizing that contract?
Yeah.
And this is the thing where it's like you cannot outrun, you can't, take an escape plan to get around. Certain lessons you have to just endure. You have to persevere through. You have to learn what you need to learn, because if you do get to the other side, but you don't have the tools that you need, it's not going to be a successful mission.
No, it's not. And both of you guys are hidden, though. I mean, I love the points you're making. You kind of, when you talk about taking the escape route all the time, when you talk about those same, if you don't learn the lesson, you keep getting the same test. And I equate it to like being in school. If you don't pass the curriculum that you have in 6th grade, you're not going to 7th grade. And you're going to keep repeating until you actually pass all the tests. Now, a better example is probably college or high school, because in college, you're not getting your degree until you finish all the curriculum. Mm-hmm. And you can keep taking stuff over and over and fail in the same classes over and over again, but you will not get the degree you want until you finish all the classes. Yeah. And so life, like, what you were saying, and I think what you're saying in a way too, is like, if you don't pass the test that's been put out there for you, you're going to keep getting the same thing you're getting. You're going to stay in the same place you stay. You might want to be up here, but you're going to stay right here until you pass the test the guy's put in front of you. So you talk about evil, and I think that I'm glad you brought it up, because sometimes people look at evil like it's there. It's without it, you wouldn't know what good was. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? No, you wouldn't. And so we are going to get tested by evil in the world, and sometimes we're going to lose that test. But the point though is that we're going to get tested, and then we learn that, okay, we shouldn't do A, B, C, and D. Then our faith comes in the fact that when we don't do it, we don't get these certain results. We get better results. Yeah.
Also, too, in 1 Corinthians, I think so there's a few different parts that people highlight when you typically hear a sermon about it. But one thing about it is, yes, there's an escape route, but he also said that if the test is there, he made sure that you could handle it. Mm-hmm. It's not something more than what you can handle. Yeah. So he's not going to give, Mike something that's just so unbearable that it's going to cave in on him. Mm-hmm. No. If it's on Mike can get through it. Mm-hmm. If it's on you, you can get through it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, that's the beautiful part of it. It's like, I'm the Father, I am love, right? Mm-hmm. You have your way out, but this is for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny, man, because I'm thinking about I'm ruminating on a lot of different verses, like different things that are coming, but it made me think about. I was reading Job again. I was revisiting that, and it's basically like, when Satan came to God, and he's basically like, I want to do this, I want to do that. God said, hey, have you met my servant Job? Like. Mm-hmm. And he's like, if you Job, you like, well,
served him up.
Yeah, like, hold on, now, like, because you would think, well, I'm being a faithful servant, I should be rewarded for that, not put to the ultimate test, and that's where we come with, kind of what we're all saying is that you kind of got to just make your peace with, you got to be able to dig deep in the trenches, and you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable if you want to walk this narrow path. Yeah. And I know you mentioned it many times where this is a path that is designed. It's not everybody, unfortunately, is not going to be able to stay on. Like, no. It really is, in some ways, is more difficult to do the right things, or it feels more difficult in the moment in our human conditions to do the right thing when you feel like everybody else is just, doing whatever, Yeah. Another way of saying is like ignorance is bliss almost, until you have an awakening, you once were blind, but now you see, you can't just go back to being ignorant and just walking through life with no destination, because you've been exposed to too much, and it's really a gift, but at times it can feel like heavy. Mm-hmm. It can feel very heavy because the standard, you're for you to strive to the standard, it's a daily walk. It's like, we talk about working out a lot. Like, for you to stay in peak condition, it's a daily grind. Mm-hmm. And matter of fact, the deeper you get into your aerobics, your athleticism, you have to be more challenged. It's going to be more difficult by design, because if not, you're going to stabilize. You're not getting better. And if you ain't getting better, that means you're getting worse, because everybody else is getting better. Yep. And that's the type of mindset that you really have to have.
No, you're right. Using Job as an example too, like in the end, and it kind of always come back to faith. God, these tests are put in front of us to make us have more faith in God. and rely on him. Because even during that whole, the Job, when he was, yeah, you're right. I know you're sitting there like, man, Lord, you offered Job up. What's up? Yeah. But God knew, and Job passed the test. He questioned God, but God had to check him. Like, hey, where were you when I made the earth? Where were you at when I did all this? And in the end, Job was like, wow. So his faith in God went to another level. And God gave him twice as much as what he had beforehand. So he passed the test. His faith in God grew more. He understood. So he like, I shouldn't even be questioning God. My bad, God. You know, why should I even try to question you? And I think when we talk about how our faith grow and different examples, I think we all got them, where it's like, yeah, I know I've questioned God before. Like, Lord, why does it got to be so hard? Why do we have to go through all this? And then later on, you realize that all that stuff you went through, okay, I learned how to do this. I had to deal with that, so I had to learn how to do this. And then you get to a situation where you use all that, and it comes like, oh, that's why I had to go through that.
Yeah.
I go back to the story when the good old mother was talking to Jesus. She was like, hey, look, take my sons, have them come sit at your right and left when you go to your kingdom. All right, cool. And then he pretty much said something. He said the most profound statement that, as he does, in a very few amount of words. And I don't know if the response of it, I would love to see what their reaction was to it. But he essentially said is, can they drink the cup that I drink? You don't know what I have to go through to be where I am. This ain't for everybody.
No.
The cup my cup, oh, this is not for the faint of heart, brother. This cross that I bear, I mean, skin on the floor, spit on, blood splattered over everybody, face unrecognizable on the cross. You think you can sit where I sit?
Hey, it's real. And as we talk about the whole faith must be tested before it's real, I think, it fits because what we go through in life, we always gonna get tested. And to your point, having the faith that we have in God will get tested, and it makes us stronger. And God will check us, just like in that situation where it's like, wait a minute, it ain't easy. You ain't gonna. This ain't no easy road. But the reward is abundant.
The name above all names.
Yeah, it's abundant, and when I say abundance, it's not just what I would call worldly abundance, where finances and all that. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with having a lot of money. God will bless you with plenty. Trust me, He will. But ain't nothing like having peace. And having everything you need in abundance. It's a difference between having a whole gobs of money and having everything you need in abundance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's one thing that, like, having that peace of mind, peace of spirit is just, it's priceless. It's things that my Fridays tend to be real interesting these days. And I was just talking to my wife, and I was like, man, we're literally living in a previous prayer. Like, we're in it now. And now we're thinking we're praying different things because that's how our mind works. We accomplish one, we want to accomplish the other. But I'm telling her, like, listen, we got to sit and ruminate on these moments. We got to really just like, yo, we actually doing it. It's certain things when we rattle off. And I'm like, man, 2 years ago, we would have been throwing a parade. Like, this, you know what I'm saying?
Or success.
Even like, it's interesting how the days look where ownership of your time, I feel, it should be something that every man should have a chance to do. And, I work very, very hard, but then like a day like today, I'm like, man, my wife, she been wanting me to go to Pilates. I went to Pilates. We mentored. I did some other things. Now we doing a podcast. And I'm like, to the average mind, It's like, man, he don't even work. He don't even, it's like, no, my work looks different.
Mm-hmm.
But it all came from, for one, grace. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was a lot of sacrifices that they, like you said, like, and not to compare, nothing to Jesus, but it's just like people they'll want to put themselves in certain positions, but they don't want to necessarily go through the steps you had to go through to get there. They don't even want to consider that. They just feel a certain entitlement to where, I want to come into this spot. Yeah. And it's like, listen, man, even still, it's not what it appears to be. No. Sometimes, how it'll appear you're doing one thing, but it's 20 other things going in motion that you got to have your hands on. You got to you're the one that holds all the responsibility. If something goes wrong, you the one that gets the call. Yep. The big stuff, not the little stuff, the big stuff. Mm-hmm. And that comes with, it's responsibility.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like what you just said. It's like you gotta watch what you pray for. you better be cautious about what you're praying for because he might give it to you.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna look the way you thought.
No, it don't mean it won't be good for you. It's just that there's a trade-off. It's not gonna be given. It's not a lottery ticket where you
don't want to destroy you with it.
No, he ain't gonna destroy. He gonna prepare you for it and all that. But it's gonna take some work. It's gonna take some sweat. It's gonna take it's gonna take faith. You know what I mean? And some testing to go along with it, so that faith to kind of take root. So I know we're getting to that point. So it's been good on many different levels. But how can we summarize and kind of give some good nuggets for people to take away with, kind of to remember, hey, when faith is getting tested, understand it's not for your bad, it's for your good.
Yeah. So the one thing that I would definitely want the people to take away is, I'll start with Romans 8:28. Mm-hmm. And I know this is one of your favorites too, but in all things work for the good of those that love the Lord. Mm-hmm. So whenever you're going through a time, whether it be challenging, whether it's not, regardless of what it is, just take a moment and try to do a real in-time assessment and just try to understand what do you need to get from this moment? What lessons can you glean from these moments, these particular moments? Don't be so quick to just skirt by thinking about, like in the job world, we'll say, oh, you living for the weekend. Don't always just live for the weekend, like enjoy it every day, because every day is a day that the Lord has made. We're never going to see it again. Like it's a gift to be in the present moment. And then the other point was just going into everything's by design, where, in order to accomplish peace, somebody had to go to war for that. Mm-hmm. So just give reference to what we're able to do too, because we live in a time that is more opportunities widely afforded to the people than any other time in this world. So let's just make the best of it.
I would say that you got to remember, to that point, who's in control. God is not competing with the devil. God is not at war with the devil. God put the devil in his place. So now think about why things happen. Think about the things you've prayed for. Think about how you have been molded by the things you have suffered. Because Jesus, it even talked about, literally in the Bible, when it talks about him being raised, it said he learned obedience by the things he suffered. What have you learned from what you've gone through? And if you're going through something now, what might you gain by being valiant and going through it?
Yeah, real talk. And the only thing I think you guys hit on, I have to put so much else on that. It's the fact that I think going back to what Mike started when he read, just to summarize what he said, hey, faith must be tested for it to be real. I think that's, write that down, understand when you're going through stuff, that, hey, it don't become real until you go through the test.
Yeah.
Don't. And when the tests do come, where do you go? Because that's where your faith really is. That's where we are. What, ready to close us out there, sir?
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Today Be Tomorrow podcast. I hope you I hope you took a note and found something to put on your monitor as you work. I hope you found something to go get a shirt up. I hope you found something to remind yourself of every single day. There's been plenty of quotes in this particular conversation, and I hope you play it back, because we've had an episode before we were talking about trial by fire. Mm-hmm. I don't want to retouch on everything in this conversation, but it is one to replay, especially if you're going through something. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can see the next episode, because it's going to be just as good. And housekeeping items. Shirt?
Yes, sir. So today we have, it says, embrace the game, the good, the bad, the ugly. And, it's just some of the things that come to my mind just based on the day-to-day life we live, and real estate, fatherhood, just everything that goes on. And so if you want some merch or check out some of the other taglines, come check out the IG at DetroitInvestor_WCI.
That's a new one, too.
That's a new one, yeah.
All right, I like that.
Yes, sir.
All right, hey, come check us out. Man 2.0, Next Level Manhood. We meet the second Saturday every month, actually at 28202 Franklin Road in Southfield, Michigan. Inviting the men to come on out and join us, 10 to 12. You're going to be around some solid brothers. Hey, we're going, and as Mike got a shirt to say this too, iron sharpen iron, and that's exactly what we do in those sessions. And if Sundays, you're looking for a place to worship and get the word, come check out Freedom Christ Ministries on Sundays, 11:30 a.m. We start on time, and we have a good time in the Lord. So come check us out there as well.
Hey, I mentioned Isaiah 45, verse 7. I mentioned breaking it down. If when I said breaking it down, you thought that it meant pulling up the Bible app and then looking at the different translations of it, I've got something for you. There's a deeper level of understanding that you can gain from the word if you knew how to look at it in a different way. If you can see it from a different lens. And I'm not talking about some ancient like some stuff that isn't really in the Bible. I'm talking about the word of God as authentically as it can possibly be. We've got something that's called the How to Read and Study the Bible Guide, and it's absolutely free. Okay, it's in the description below. It's from Freedom in Christ Ministry, and it's going to help you to break down verse by verse, word by word, line by line of the Bible, understand the original context of it, understand what it means, and understand what God is saying to you through the word. So if you want it, information is below. With that, thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope to see y'all next week.
Peace.